Welcome back, everybody. We're diving into a really fascinating topic today.
Oh, yeah.
How do businesses adapt to the unexpected, like really unexpected stuff?
Right.
And we're going to zero in on tourism to explore this.
Okay.
So picture this. You've got this peaceful mountain town in Mexico,
Yeah.
known for its beautiful scenery and like a vibrant tourist scene.
I like it.
And bam, global pandemic hits.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
It is. But what's really interesting here is
Okay.
we're not just looking at like individual businesses scrambling to survive.
Right.
We're going to zoom out and look at the whole tourism ecosystem.
The big picture.
Exactly. And this chapter we're diving into
Yeah.
uses this term complex adaptive system to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so back up for a sec.
Sure.
Complex adaptive system.
It sounds complex.
It does. Can you break that down for me?
Well, think of it like a forest.
Okay.
You've got all these different trees and plants, right?
Yeah.
Animals, the weather, the soil, all these elements interacting, and they're constantly changing.
So it's dynamic.
Very dynamic.
Okay.
Tourism's kind of like that, too.
Okay, I see it.
You've got hotels and restaurants,
Right.
tour operators.
Right.
And then you throw in things like global events,
Mm-hmm.
travelers changing tastes.
All these moving pieces.
Exactly. They're all interconnected.
Right.
One little change
Yeah.
can ripple through the whole system.
So it's less about one business being like super smart
Right.
and more about how the whole system reacts.
It's all about that system-level adaptation.
I like that system level adaptation.
Yeah, and that's where collective intelligence comes in.
Okay, another term. Collective intelligence.
This chapter is full of them.
It is, but tell me about that one.
So imagine a flock of birds.
Okay.
Each bird is just reacting to the birds around it.
Right.
No single bird is in charge.
Mm-hmm.
But collectively, they create these amazing formations.
So it's like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
It really is. It's not just individual smarts.
Yeah.
It's shared information coordinated action.
Okay, I'm with you.
So now let's apply that to our Mexican town.
Tapapa.
Right. Even if each business owner makes what they think is the best decision for them,
Yeah.
the whole system might react in a totally different way.
So things can get unpredictable.
Oh, they definitely can. And the way those businesses respond, this chapter breaks it down into 4 stages.
Oh, okay. I like a good framework laid on me.
All right, we've got exploitation, conservation, release, and reorganization.
Okay. Those are some interesting words, especially exploitation.
Yeah, I know it sounds a little harsh,
Right.
but it's not about being ruthless.
Okay, good.
Think of it as the initial phase when a business is just starting out.
Okay, so like they're testing things out.
Exactly. Finding their niche, trying to grab every opportunity they can.
So they're exploiting the resources and the possibilities.
You got it.
Makes sense. So then they kind of settle in, find their groove.
Yeah, that's conservation.
Things become more stable.
More efficient.
Rapid.
Here's the thing. Systems can get too stable, too stuck in their ways.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And that's when a disruption, a release, can actually be a good thing.
Okay, so are we talking like a global pandemic throwing the whole tourism industry into chaos?
Exactly. That's the release stage.
Right.
Forcing change, old structures might crumble,
Right.
but it opens up space for new ideas.
So it's like shaking things up.
It is. And then comes reorganization.
Okay, so picking up the pieces, figuring out what works now.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's a chance to learn from the disruption rebuild in a way that's better suited to the new reality.
And then the cycle repeats.
Exactly. These 4 stages, they keep repeating, constantly pushing the system to evolve.
So it's like this dance between order and chaos.
A very elegant dance. And here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
This chapter introduces the concept of panarchy,
Anarchy.
which recognizes that these cycles aren't just happening at one level.
Oh.
They're happening at multiple scales simultaneously.
Okay, wait, I need to wrap my head around that.
So you've got global trends influencing national economies, which then impact local businesses.
So it's like a set of nesting dolls all interacting.
Exactly.
Whoa. Okay, so our small town in Mexico,
Yeah,
it's not just reacting to the pandemic.
right.
It's also being influenced by these global economic trends, changes in travel patterns, maybe even something as big as climate change.
Absolutely. And understanding that interconnectedness, that's key to understanding resilience.
Okay, so resilience is more than just surviving one shock.
It is. It's about being able to adapt to ongoing change at multiple levels.
Okay, so let's bring it back to Tapalpa.
Our peaceful mountain town.
What happened when the pandemic hit?
Well, like a lot of tourist destinations,
Yeah.
Tapalpa saw a huge drop in visitors.
Yeah, makes sense.
Lockdowns, travel restrictions, businesses had to close.
Tough.
It was But here's the thing. They didn't just survive.
They adapted.
They did.
So is this where we see collective intelligence in action?
I think so.
It's not just about each business fighting for themselves.
Right.
It's about figuring out how to work together.
That's the idea. The researchers actually surveyed 122 different businesses in Tapalpa
Wow. That's a lot.
to understand how they adapted, and the results were surprising.
Really?
Even though businesses felt they had limited control over the situation.
Like it couldn't control the pandemic.
Right, they still managed to adapt as a system.
So how did they do it? What was their secret?
Oh, it wasn't some magic formula.
Okay.
The study actually identified 3 different types of responses.
Oh, interesting.
They called them critical cases,
Okay.
which were businesses that adapted really well.
Like the rock stars.
Exactly.
Mm.
Then there were atypical cases, which struggled more,
Mm-hmm.
and then mixed cases, which fell somewhere in between.
Okay, so let's dig into those different responses.
Yeah.
What made the critical cases so special? Were they just more innovative?
They were innovative, but it was more than that.
Okay.
These businesses were really proactive, willing to try new things.
Mm-hmm.
And importantly, they understood the value of working together.
So they were consciously tapping into that collective intelligence.
Yes. Sharing information resources, helping each other out.
And even in a crisis, they were thinking about the whole system.
They were. They realized that a stronger tourism ecosystem would benefit everyone in the long run.
So it wasn't just about sharing information.
Right.
It was about collaborating on solutions.
Exactly. And one of the key things that emerged was the role of technology.
Oh, yeah. Tech always comes into play.
It does. Businesses in Tapalpa used online platforms to stay connected with customers,
Okay.
promote their services, even manage their operations remotely.
It's amazing how technology can be such a lifeline.
It is. Especially when face-to-face interactions are limited.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's the big takeaway here?
I think the big takeaway is that adaptability isn't just about being a brilliant individual business owner. It's about the system's collective intelligence, the ability to work together that truly makes a difference.
That's a powerful insight. I'm already thinking about this differently.
Yeah.
Like how businesses thrive even in the face of something as disruptive as a global pandemic.
It's a whole new way of thinking about it.
It is. But I'm curious about those businesses that struggled.
The atypical cases.
Yeah, what factors held them back?
That's a great question, and one we should definitely explore further.
We should. But first, I think it's time to shift gears a little bit
Okay?
and think about what this all means for our listeners out there.
I like it.
Okay, so we've been unpacking this idea of collective intelligence and how it helped this town in Mexico, Tapalpa, get through the pandemic.
Right, right.
And it's like this whole idea that the entire system, all those businesses working together,
Yeah.
they can be smarter than any one person or business on their own. But before we dive deeper into, what helped some businesses thrive and what held others back,
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious about something.
Okay, shoot.
Well, we keep talking about those atypical cases, the businesses that struggled. But isn't a little healthy competition a good thing, in business?
For sure.
Doesn't that push everyone to be more innovative?
Yeah, to up their game.
Right, provide better service. How do we balance this idea of collaboration with the need to stand out from the crowd?
It's a great question, and it's something the research actually touches on.
Okay, good.
Competition is definitely a driver of innovation.
Right.
But in a complex adaptive system like tourism,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a zero-sum game.
So one business succeeding doesn't automatically mean another one fails.
Exactly. In Tapalpa, even businesses that were direct competitors
Oh, wow.
were willing to share information and resources during the pandemic.
Really?
They realized that, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Mm-hmm.
If the whole tourism ecosystem was healthy, everyone would benefit.
Okay, so maybe those atypical cases, the ones that struggled,
Yeah.
they weren't necessarily less competitive,
Right?
but maybe less connected.
It's a really good point and something the research supports.
Okay.
Those businesses that adapted, well, they had strong relationships with other businesses.
So they were networked?
They were. With local government, with community organizations. They weren't just out there on their own.
So thinking about our listeners, if you're running a business,
Mm-hmm.
this has got to be a bit of a wake-up call.
It should be.
It's not enough to just focus on your own little corner of the world anymore.
You've got to be plugged into the system.
Exactly. You need those connections.
Right. And this research really challenges us to think about success differently.
Okay, I like that.
It's not just about individual brilliance.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the strength of your connections.
Being part of something bigger.
It's about being part of a system that's constantly learning and adapting.
So this collective intelligence,
Yeah.
can you actually measure it? Like, can you quantify how smart a system is?
That's a question researchers are still trying to figure out.
So there's no easy answer.
Not yet. There are different approaches.
Yeah.
Some focus on quantifying things like information flow.
Like how quickly information moves through the system.
Exactly. Others look at the density of connections, how many links there are between different actors.
So it's complicated.
It's not just a simple IQ test for a system.
Right. It's about looking at patterns of interaction, how decisions are made.
And the overall ability of the system to adapt to change.
So this makes me think about policymakers and community leaders.
Okay.
If this collective intelligence is so important for building resilience,
Yeah.
how can they help foster it? I mean, you can't just order people to be more connected.
You can't force it,
Yeah.
but you can create an environment where collaboration can flourish.
So create the right conditions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of just focusing on attracting individual businesses, policymakers should be thinking about how to strengthen the entire ecosystem.
So things like supporting industry associations.
Yes.
Mm.
Creating spaces for networking, investing in shared infrastructure.
Okay, so those are all ways to lay the groundwork.
For that collective intelligence to emerge.
And we see this happening in Tapalpa, right?
The local government there played a key role.
Okay, tell me more.
Facilitating communication between businesses, providing access to resources, helping to create that sense of shared purpose.
That's so interesting because, we often hear about government getting out of the way of business.
Yeah, the invisible hand.
But here it sounds like they were really crucial in supporting the system.
It's not about controlling the system.
Right.
It's about nurturing it, creating the conditions for it to thrive.
Okay, so we're starting to get a clearer picture of what separates the businesses that thrive from those that struggle.
But it's not just about individual smarts.
It's about connections.
Exactly.
Collaboration being plugged into that network of shared knowledge and support.
It's about being part of something bigger than yourself.
And this Tapalpa study focused on tourism. But I'm thinking these principles could apply to any industry facing rapid change and disruption.
I think you're right. Healthcare, education, technology.
Yeah, any field where there's a lot of uncertainty and you need to be able to adapt quickly.
Exactly. And that's what makes this research so relevant for everyone listening. Whether you're running a business, leading a team, or just trying to navigate your own career.
It's a new way of thinking about success.
It is. It's not just about climbing the ladder.
It's about building a stronger web.
And ultimately, it's the strength of that web that will determine how well we'll all weather the storms to come.
Okay, so let's circle back to those specific business responses in Tapalpa.
Okay.
We know the critical cases were like the rock stars of adaptation.
Yeah.
What did they actually do that set them apart? Okay, so we've talked about how important collective intelligence is.
Right.
And how those strong connections can really make a difference when a business is trying to, adapt and survive a crisis.
It's all about that network.
It is. So let's get down to brass tacks here. What were those critical case businesses in Tapalpa actually doing? Like, what were their secret moves?
Well, remember those 4 stages of adaptation we talked about?
Exploitation, conservation, release, reorganization.
That's the one. Those businesses, they were masters of that cycle.
They knew it well.
They did. They didn't just react to the pandemic.
They were proactive.
They were. They anticipated, experimented, and really leaned into that collaboration.
Okay. I'm ready for an example. What's a real-life example of this?
So one of the critical cases was this small family-run hotel.
Okay.
Before the pandemic, they were doing pretty well, mostly catering to weekend travelers from nearby cities.
That's nice.
It was, but then when tourism dried up, they didn't just, sit around and wait.
They took action.
They did. They immediately shifted their marketing strategy.
Okay. Interesting how so.
They started targeting remote workers,
Oh, that's smart.
people who could suddenly work from anywhere with decent internet.
Right.
They revamped their website to highlight their Wi-Fi,
Makes sense.
offered work from hotel packages, even started providing co-working spaces.
So they saw the disruption as an opportunity.
They did. They were already in that exploitation phase,
Trying new things.
experimenting, seeing what worked.
But this is where the collective intelligence comes in.
Exactly. They didn't hoard those ideas.
They shared them.
They did. They share their strategies with other hotels in the area, even their competitors.
Wow. So even in a crisis, they were thinking about the bigger picture.
They understood that a strong tourism ecosystem would benefit everyone in the long run.
That's a really important point.
It is. And it wasn't just about sharing information.
What else?
It was about actually collaborating on solutions.
Like working together.
Exactly. For example, Several hotels pooled their resources to create a joint marketing campaign,
Interesting.
promoting Tapalpa as a remote work destination.
So they were leveraging each other's strengths and reaching a wider audience.
That's the idea.
So smart. And did they do anything else?
Oh, they didn't stop there. They also worked with local restaurants
Okay.
to offer meal delivery services to their work-from-hotel guests.
Oh, wow. So they were creating new revenue streams for other businesses, too.
They were thinking outside the box.
It's like they were constantly adapting and reorganizing based on what was happening around them.
Based on the feedback they were getting from the system, from each other, from their customer.
And that's what collective intelligence is all about, right?
It is. It's about recognizing that you're part of a larger ecosystem and that your success is tied to the success of others.
This is really inspiring, but I have to admit it's also a little intimidating.
Yeah, Gage?
If I'm a small business owner, where do I even start? How do I build those kinds of connections and foster that collaboration?
It's a great question, and honestly, it starts with being curious.
Okay.
Reaching out to other businesses in your community, even if they're in a different industry.
So just start connecting.
Yeah. Attend industry events, join online forums, participate in local initiatives.
Be a joiner. Get out there and meet people.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to share your own knowledge and expertise.
Right, because collective intelligence is a two-way street.
It is. The more you contribute, the more you'll get back.
This is giving me so many ideas. I'm starting to see collective intelligence everywhere now.
It is everywhere.
It's not just about businesses. It's about communities, neighborhoods, even families.
It's about how we interact and support each other.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
I'm glad.
We started with this small town in Mexico facing a pandemic.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about this powerful idea of collective intelligence shaping our businesses, our communities, even our personal lives.
It's amazing how these deep dives can take us to unexpected places.
They really do.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a little challenge.
Okay.
Take a look around your world. Where do you see collective intelligence in action?
It's out there.
And how can you be a catalyst for more collaboration and resilience?
Because the future belongs to those who understand that we're all in this together.
That's a great note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
We'll be back soon with another one, exploring a whole new topic. Until then, stay curious, stay connected, and keep learning.